Gradually, the boys are being separated from the men, and it's the UEFA Champions League. Welcome to Sports World on ABC News Ghana with me, James Ohenba McKeown. This is a special edition, and we are doing the UEFA Champions League. Yesterday, some interesting games were being played. FC Barcelona went to Stamford Bridge, but they were beaten by 3-0. Marseille also beat Newcastle by 2-1. There were other interesting games. We will be doing a review of the games that were played yesterday and also a preview of the games that we play today. Remember, today, Arsenal, the Gunners, will face Bayern Munich. It is the big game of today when it comes to the UEFA Champions League. What are the stats saying? Who has more head-to-head wins and everything? We'll also be looking at other games. Remember, I'll not be doing this alone. I'll be doing this with Eugene, Ofori, Sottie. Remember, I'll bring you Betway Osborne, where I'll give you games for the weekend where you can stake to get a bit of money. Also, remember, I will bring you area take. Yesterday, we went outside and we spoke to some Chelsea fans and also some Arsenal fans ahead of the game tonight. So we go for a breather when we come back. Eugene, Ofori, Sottie will join me here and we dissect the game. Stay tuned.
Introducing Betway's Bet Influencer, a groundbreaking feature where you can make money by just sharing codes. He just needs to share his codes and make money. The more his codes are used, the more money he makes. Oh yes, so what are you waiting for? Anyone can be a bet influencer. Share your codes and make money. Bet Influencer, another world first from Betway.
This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway, get way more.
Rent back with the beer open. Come on, come and see what. Where this guy? My friend, see before.
It's the Telesur Too Much Money promo. Win cash daily, weekly, and a grand prize of 1.2 million Ghana cedis. Just reload or buy a bundle with Telesur Cash to earn points and stand a chance to win big. Dial *500# or visit the Telesur Play app to obtain and start winning in the Telesur Too Much Money promo. Terms and conditions apply. This promo is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas Lottery platform.
When is happening? If you're a baby, many schedule no. If you know, meto etiaka. Inti ene, uno ba no mpe baby amobeda. Oh, no abeka. You did too much money. No matter.
Telecel, connecting energies.
Welcome back from the break. I'm still watching Sports World on ABC News Ghana with me, James Ohenba McKeown. Remember, the show is powered by Betway Ghana. All they are saying is that you need to share your codes with your fans, friends, and followers. It doesn't matter if they lose or win, you earn 4% of their wager. Let's head straight into the discussions, and I have my regular suspects, Eugene, Ofori, Sottie. Are you feeling good?
Totally.
The Bruce. Cool,
I'm just feeling.
You're still feeling good from yesterday.
I think I've got a fever. It's been 2-3 days where I'm just feeling cool.
Oh my God! Don't do this, bro. Don't do this. Guys, can you record this for me? Wow, how is that feeling?
Oh, it's great.
It's great. 23 hours.
You know, I think as a big club, I've gotten used to such victories, so nothing surprises me anymore. So I told you yesterday, even after the game, there was no jubilation. I mean, it was just normal.
It was normal for you.
Yeah, normal.
Beating FC Barcelona.
No. It's a groundswell. We just deliver the results and we go to sleep. Then we ask for the next patient. So hopefully we'll deliver.
The next patient is Arsenal.
Yeah, we'll deliver on Sunday.
We see what happens on Sunday, but. As we speak, we are looking at the games that were played yesterday. We are doing a short review of the games that were played yesterday. Then we delve deep into the games that will be played today. Remember, it's the UEFA Champions League, the special edition on Sports. So let's start from yesterday's game. Obviously, we'll start from the big game. FC Barcelona being beaten by Chelsea by 3-0. First of all, take me through what Chelsea did right to beat FC Barcelona in that particular game.
First off, I think that from the lineup, I think Chelsea anticipated that Barcelona would play the usual high line.
Yeah.
And that's why Chelsea didn't start with any striker and decided to go with Pedro Neto, Alejandro Garnacho, Estevao as well. So it was just to put the speedsters up front and just to go for the win. I think unfortunately Chelsea got surprised by Barcelona. They didn't go exactly with that high line as was anticipated, and so it made things change a little bit. So I think the next thing Chelsea tried to do was then, if Barcelona was not going to play with the high line, then Chelsea rather needed to control the tempo of the game. And once they were able to control the tempo of the game, Barcelona would have to defend. And we all know that Barcelona traditionally this season haven't been one of the best teams in terms of defending. And we realized that once Chelsea began to control the tempo of the game after the first 15 minutes, it means that Barcelona had to recede. And then once they didn't have a resolute defense, it was just a matter of when Chelsea was going to score, not if. With the 3 disallowed goals already, it means it had built the tempo of the game towards the tide had shifted towards Chelsea. So I think all in all, it's Chelsea's anticipation towards the game. The fact that Chelsea worked as a unit. If Cucurella lost the ball, Caicedo was in to help him. Caicedo lost the ball, James was in to help him. They worked as a unit, but Barcelona looked disjointed, and I think that's what was their undoing. And they were relying on individual performances from players like Lewandowski, Ferran Torres, and most importantly, Lamine Yamal, who all failed to deliver on the day. So it's an accumulation of factors that have helped Chelsea. And I think following Barcelona, they failing to win at Club Brugge last time. That game, I believe they should have even lost it. So I think that was the first portent for them, and they didn't hit and pay attention to that warning from Club Brugge. And I think that has been their undoing. So from the Chelsea perspective, I just think they played as a unit. The players delivered. I don't think you could fault any player in the game yesterday. I think, save one moment where Ferran Torres had a chance, he fluffed his lines.
I think that was the changing point of the game.
Exactly, and that was the only time
to get a chance in the early embers of the game, a perfect chance for you to miss that particular game. It changed the dynamics. From then, you could see that the passes of even FC Barcelona, they were not going through. Their pressing was so bad. Their high line was being exploited by the Chelsea front, and I think that was the changing point in that particular game.
And he also left spaces in the midfield. I think once Chelsea recognized what had happened, it was a miscommunication between Moises Caicedo, Rhys James, and as well as the defense, as well as the goalkeeper. I think once that mistake went through, I think I saw some signs between Malo Gusto, Rhys James, the goalkeeper Sanchez, and Caicedo, such as that situation never repeated itself, and thankfully that didn't happen. So a myriad of factors led to Chelsea's win, but most importantly, the players played for the badge. They played with a lot of energy, and once one player lost the ball, the others were working for it, and that's one thing that Barcelona failed to do on the day. Kudos to Chelsea, and now they are back into the top 8, and for Barcelona, it's not looking very healthy for them, because at the moment, if they stand a chance of qualifying, they will need to do that through the playoffs, because the automatic qualification slot almost is looking impossible for them at the moment.
All right, from the Chelsea game, let's move on to another game. It seems that the Chelsea game took all the spotlights yesterday. A lot of people didn't even know that there were other games ongoing. One other game was that game between Manchester City and Bayer Leverkusen. And interestingly, Bayer Leverkusen beat Manchester City by 2 goals. Pep Guardiola losing 2 games on a row. Remember, in the English Premier League over the weekend, they lost that particular game, and also yesterday, a lot of people thought that they could have won against Leverkusen, who themselves are a bit struggling when it comes to the German Bundesliga. So was it a surprise for you?
No. Leverkusen is a team who have been shrouded by inconsistencies this season. Remember the managerial change at the end of the season. Xabi Alonso left the club to Real Madrid, and then the club announced that it had acquired the services of former Man U coach Erik ten Hag. He took over the rest of the club. Things didn't go well. After a few games, he was sacked. They brought in a new coach to try and steady the ship. Things didn't go well, and they are now with the former Denmark coach Kasper Hjulmand, and he also struggled initially, but he has now seemed to have steadied the ship a little bit. And so with Bayer Leverkusen, sometimes you're not too sure of what Bayer Leverkusen to expect. That's the only challenge with them. But their talent is not in doubt, and they seem to be going through a real building phase. A lot of their players have gone. Jeremy Frimpong left. Granit Xhaka has gone to Sunderland, so a few of their key players have left. So they are going through rebuilding phase, and some of the old guys are still performing. Alex Grimaldo, who scored the opening goal, one of the most consistent left fullbacks in European football in the last 3 years. He decided that on such a big game, he would decide to show up. And he was almost like Kukurea in the Chelsea game. He was almost everywhere. I watched those matches concurrently. I think where I was watching the game, I was privileged enough to watch both games. So I was able to also see. And, you know, for players, Grimaldo and Kukurea, who play at the same position in club side, it looked as if I was watching the same player in 2 different matches. Almost as if I see the player do the same thing. The next guy I see him doing exactly the replica in the other game. So it was a brilliant game from Alex Grimaldo, and also for this Algerian forward who Bayer Leverkusen got as well. And then as well, Patrick Schick, he took the game well. He took the Man City defenders to the cleanest. I like the way he took control of the game. He didn't dominate the pace of the game. He didn't disturb or distract the Barca, the Man City defenders until he got his only chance. And once he scored, the City defenders were quiet at the moment. I'm not also sure about the lineup or approach that Pep Guardiola took into the game. He didn't start with Erling Haaland. I'm not too sure. Honestly, I'm not too sure if he has started the game to have had any bearing on the game, because he has started certain games and City have still lost anyway. So I'm not too sure whether that would have impacted the game anyway. But kudos to Bayer Leverkusen. They seem to have controlled the game from the beginning to the end. They had the firm control, and they also took the Chelsea approach. They came, they opened up, they dominated the play, made sure they were the ones holding the ball and taking the pace of the game. So it meant that City, for the large part of the game, would have to defend. And we know that once City are pegged back in their own half, then they are susceptible to a lot of mistakes, and that's what happened. So I think Kasper Heuman's tactics worked on the day, and it gives a lot of headache to Pep Guardiola, because so many inconsistent results. They lost away at St. James's Park. The idea was that coming at home against Leverkusen, they would have moved past that result. And even in the pre-match presser, Pep Guardiola spoke about it, that they had moved away from the defeat, focused on the game, and then only for them to come and repeat their previous mistakes. There's a lot of headache for Pep Guardiola at the moment, and I don't know how he's going to work around this poor run of form.
Let's see what happens in the coming days in terms of Pep Guardiola and his men doing some wonders, whether they can win the English Premier League and even go on to win the UEFA Champions League. Sottie mentioned St. James's Park, and the team that featured that park is Newcastle United. They were in contention yesterday against Marseille. They scored the first goal, but then Marseille did a comeback. Now, Marseille is one of the teams we don't usually talk about this season when it comes to Europe, but they are doing something spectacular when it comes to the French League and also in the UEFA Champions League. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored, and also Mason Greenwood did some magic in that game against Newcastle United. So it's very surprised that Marseille did a comeback. I think they have one of the best teams in terms of attacking front when it comes to Europe, but it seems that because they play in the French League, PSG have overshadowed them, and even this season when they met PSG, they did so well. Mason Greenwood, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang doing so well. They had that 3 points from Newcastle United. What do you think about the game?
Well, I think that for a club like Newcastle, they did very well, beating City away at home at St. James's Park, and then they traveling to also take the lead at La Velodrome. I think it was brilliant. And for me, I like the fact that it was Harvey Barnes. He scored the brace at St. James's Park, and then he took the lead for Newcastle away at La Velodrome. But I think I think, as you said, Marseille isn't a club that is heavily looked at away from France, even though they're one of the traditional clubs in France. Once they're out of the French lenses, they don't get a lot of attention. As you said, they've got a lot of good players, and apart from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Mason Greenwood, they've also got good players like Amin Gouhiri with the Algerian national team, who unfortunately is injured, and so he'll miss the AFCON. So they've been on a good run of form with former Brighton coach and the Italian guy, remember his name?
Roberto De
Zerbi. And they seem to cook. I think the only problem with their team is that inconsistency sometimes. But I think they've got a very good squad. And if things continue to go their way, I think they will be unstoppable. I doubt they will to make it automatically through the top qualification, but I see them as a possible team who can make it through the playoffs. And usually because they are not widely regarded. They can also pull an upset. They went back from Aubameyang from Saudi Arabia to try and rebuild their project again, and I think so far so good. Things are going according to plan.
So far so good. Things are going to the way they planned. Those were not the only games that came up yesterday. Let me quickly run through some of the games that were played. Ajax at home were beaten by Benfica. Jose Mourinho recording a victory over the Dutch club. Galatasaray lost 1-0 against Union Saint-Gilloise. Slavia Praha drew 0-0 with Athletic Club Bilbao. Bodo Glimt scored 2 goals, but it wasn't enough as Juventus beat them by 3-2. Chelsea beat Barcelona by 3-0. Borussia Dortmund beat Villarreal by 4-0. Sergio Guirassy scoring that particular one. Manchester City lost to Bayer Leverkusen. Olympique Marseille, we've already mentioned. Napoli, Scott McTominay scoring in that particular game against Karabakh. They won that game by 2-0. Copenhagen currently are playing in it, or they played at 5:45. It is one of the games that are being played today, and currently they are leading by 2-0. Whilst Parfort Football Club are losing to AS Monaco. Yesterday, after the game between Chelsea and FC Barcelona, we spoke to some fans and also took their thoughts about the game that is happening today. Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. Let's have a listen to Area Take. Remember, Area Take is brought to you by Betway Ghana, and they are saying you need to share your goals with your fans, friends, and followers. It doesn't matter if they lose or they win, you earn 4% of their wager. Let's have a listen to Area Take.
We are just here at one of the viewing centers in Labadi, where Chelsea just demolished Barcelona by 3-0 at Stamford Bridge. And we are speaking to fans to get them to talk to us about their thoughts on Chelsea's performance of the players that impressed them. And also, we also look forward to Wednesday's game where Arsenal also take on Bayern Munich, their predictions as well. So stay tuned. Remember, this segment is brought to you by Betway More. And, well, let's hear what the fans have to say.
Champion. We are the world champions. Chelsea for life! Yo, Chelsea for life! Chelsea for life! Chelsea for life! My people, when you bring a flag down in the sea, yeah man, world champion! We are the Chelsea. Arsenal and Bayern. Arsenal will score 4-1 against Bayern because Arsenal recently they get chance. We, the England teams, Spain teams, or Germany teams, they can't fit us. So Arsenal will score 4-1.
Arsenal and Bayern, I believe Bayern will score Arsenal 2-1. That's my prediction for the day for tomorrow. Bayern will win 2-1 against Arsenal. Yeah, that's my prediction for sure.
Ebafe draw.
Oh, Arsenal already in the top 10 for Bayern already. So tomorrow in match we go chop like 4. My name is Amani. 4.
Arsenal and Bayern. Well, I was Arsenal 3-2. Arsenal go Arsenal 2, Bayern Munich 3. So 3-2 for Bayern.
We are just here at one of the viewing centers in Labadi, where Chelsea just demolished Barcelona by 3-0 at Stamford Bridge. And we are speaking to fans to get them to talk to us about their thoughts on Chelsea.
So that was Eugene Ofori Sottie speaking to some fans yesterday after that Barcelona and Chelsea game. And earlier on, we saw some of the Chelsea fans celebrating. Then also we spoke to fans, some fans concerning the Arsenal and the Bayern Munich game that will be playing today. Some predicting a draw, some predicting a win for Arsenal, whilst some predicted a win for FC Barcelona. And that leads us to the game of today. Arsenal versus Bayern Munich is the biggest game of today when it comes to the UEFA Champions League. These people are familiar foes. They've been meeting for some time now, and yeah, so we'll come into that. But before I come to Eugene Ofori, so let's have the form guide of these particular two teams, Arsenal and Bayern Munich. How have they been faring ahead of this particular game? Who is winning? So first of all, let's have the form guide of Arsenal, and then we have it on our screens. This is in all competitions. So in all competitions, Arsenal have played 6 games. They've won 5 and drawn only 1. But when it comes to the UEFA Champions League, they've not lost any game. They've won all 4 of those games. That tells you that Arsenal are doing well this particular season, and it is difficult for them to lose. Remember, in the month of October, they didn't concede any goal in all competitions. Now let's move on to the form guide of FC Bayern Munich. It's the same thing for them. They've also played 6 games. in all competitions, they've drawn only won the rest of them. It's the same in the UEFA Champions League. So 2 heavyweights in the Champions League this season are meeting tonight when it comes to the UEFA Champions League. Sottie, looking at their form guide, how do you anticipate this game?
I think it will be a game where it will be keenly contested. I think it's a game where both teams will approach it with caution, so as not to lose. And I think it will be a game where it will be based on the tactical superiority of both clubs and a few key players, and then maybe what each manager will try and do to outweigh the others. We know Arsenal will try and use their set pieces threat, but we know also that Gabriel Magalhaes will not be in today's game, and we know he's one of their huge assets in terms of the set pieces. For a team like Bayern as well, they've got players who can shoot from long range. Players like Harry Kane and Michael Olise are good enough to do that. We also know that for Bayern, they have players who are good at counter-attacking situations as well, and so that's something they would try and use to the advantage. So I expect a game where it will be tough for both clubs, because Arsenal are leading the Premier League table. They are also leading the Champions League table as well. Bayern are leading the Bundesliga table, and they are only second to Arsenal based on goal difference. They are both having the same points. So both impregnable teams, and both are yet to suffer defeat or even avoid winning a match. So I think it will be a game where we need to see, first of all, the lineups, and then we'll be able to determine what each coach is attempting to do in this game.
All right, let's move on to the next graphics concerning this game, Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. We've already seen the form guide of the two teams. We said that these two teams are on form. So the next one, there's a fun fact about FC Bayern Munich, and we are saying that Bayern remain unbeaten across all competitions this season, with their only slip being a 2-2 draw against Union Berlin just before the international break. And also Bayern Munich have just 7 clean sheets. If you can quickly go back to what I was reading, Bayern Munich have just 7 clean sheets from 18 matches. So that shows you that they are conceding goals.
Yeah. So they score a lot, but they fail to maintain clean sheets. So it means they are almost always susceptible to conceding goals. And even over the weekend, they staged a comeback, beating Freiburg by 6-2. And even in that game, they initially conceded 2 goals, and then they had to stage a comeback. The 2 goals were from set pieces as well, so it plays to the advantage of Arsenal. The last goals that Bayern Munich conceded were from set pieces against Freiburg, 2 goals from corners which were headed in. So for Arsenal, that's an advantage you can take.
Let's see how that plays out.
And also the thing with Bayern is that their defense is quite, for want of a better word, unpredictable and inconsistent. So Kim Min-jae and Dario Upamecano are not, with the greatest respect to them this season, the very best for Bayern Munich. They've had their ups and downs, their own shortcomings, and so there are players that on a good day, Leandro Trossard and Bukayo Saka, can have a good day, a field day with them, with their amazing runs into the box, their good dribbling, their good pace. So I think I expect a game where both teams will be able to score, and then maybe the superior team who scores more wins the game.
All right, so let's move on to the next graphic that was displayed on our screen concerning this particular game between Arsenal and Bayern Munich. Now we are saying that Bayern conceded both goals against Freiburg from corner kicks, as Sottie said, meaning even an Arsenal side without Gabriel can still fancy their chances of exploiting their visitors' set piece vulnerability. Now Bayern Munich head to the Emirates on a 5-game unbeaten streak against the Gunners, winning 4 of them, although Arteta's men were only just edged out 3-2 on aggregate in the 2023-2024 quarterfinal. So Bayern Munich head to the Emirates on a 5-game unbeaten streak. Now Bayern's last trip to England was not successful, losing 1-0 to Aston Villa. So Sottie, the last trip that Bayern made to England, they lost 1-0 to Aston Villa in the Champions League. But in the previous stats we read, it looks like when they come to the Emirates, they're able to at least held the fort against the Gunners.
Well, last season's the Aston Villa team that beat Bayern, I think they could have gone on to win the Champions League. People do not agree with me usually. But watch that game Aston Villa played against Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain, who eventually ended up winning the Champions League, had to escape by the skin of the teeth. So it was a game that Aston Villa could have easily won. So it makes a lot of sense last season that Bayern lost away to Aston Villa. So I think for Arsenal, it's a different ball game together. It's a team they know and they dominate in a lot of games. And we hope to see how that goes recently. I remember there was an 8-2 scoreline a few years ago. Yeah. So it's that was during the Wenger.
It was 10-2.
Those were during the Wenger days. You suffered in the hands of the.
At the point, I felt like UEFA were against us because in 4 consecutive years,
you met Bayern.
In the round of 16, if it wasn't Barca, it was Bayern in the round of 16.
And your two foes that always impede your progress.
That was Bayern. Bayern were at their peak around that
Iron
time.
Robbins with Frank Ribery, Thomas Muller.
And a lot of people even
Lewandowski at the
don't
time.
remember that. After the 10-2, in the next leg, we won. We won by 2 goals to 1.
But it didn't matter.
We were out of the competition. Now let's move on to the next graphic concerning Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. Let's look at that of Arsenal. So, fun fact about Arsenal concerning this game. And Arsenal and Bayern Munich, the only 2 sides with perfect Champions League records this season. We've already mentioned that. Now, Arsenal head into Wednesday's headline encounter, seeking a 16th successive Emirates win in the Champions League phase and group stage. So, this means that for 15 times that Arsenal have played at home in the UEFA Champions League, when it comes to the league phase and group stage, how Arsenal haven't lost at home. Well, can Bayern break this record?
Well, statistics are like
miniskirts.
Yeah, bikinis. Sometimes they reveal certain facts, but sometimes what they reveal is sometimes suggestive, and what they conceal is what really is what you are supposed to look at. Bayern also are one of the teams who have barely lose in the group stage of the Champions League. So it's a game where there's a lot at stake, and it could easily end in a draw, or one of these teams will have their records broken.
That's an interesting one. Let's move on to another graphic. If we have another one on Arsenal, we've already mentioned that they are seeking to win their 16th game, but Arsenal are targeting a remarkable 13th consecutive home game in the Champions League group stage and league phase without conceding. So Arsenal are targeting a remarkable 13th consecutive home games in the Champions League group stage and league phase without conceding.
Well, we all know that for Mikel Arteta and his team now, first of all, with the project he began from 2019, they were conceding a lot of goals. So the focus for him at the point was that they should avoid conceding in games and start winning with very small margins, slim margins, 1-0, 2-0, and then from there they build on to winning very high margins without conceding. I think so far it has worked for them with the young defense he's built, who are very experienced now. William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, who is injured at the moment, and Ricardo Calafiori, and Uren Timber, and also Benjamin White, he's been out of action for a long time for the Gunners. I think he's been able to build, Mikel Arteta has been able to build a resolute defense that now opponents go into this game wondering how they were able to beat Arsenal. I think that's credit to Mikel Arteta and the block of work he's been able to demonstrate and build at the moment. They're one of those teams who are difficult to beat, and he's built a team that is difficult to play against.
All right, so Arteta has built a team that is very difficult to play against. Let's have the last statistics that was being displayed on the screen. Let's have a look at it and let's read it, and let's move on to the lineups of these 2 particular teams. Already the lineups are out, and this one is the scorers for the 2 teams across our competition. So we have Gyökeres in there, we have Saka, we have Leandro Trossard, we have Eze in there, and these are the last 13 games that have been played from 2013. So from 2013, Bayern Munich beat Arsenal by 3-1. Then in the next game, Arsenal won by 2-0. Bayern took over by beating 2-0. Then they drew 1-1. Then Arsenal went on to beat Bayern Munich 2-0. Then the heaviest of defeats so far among this one, Bayern beat Arsenal 5-1 on 2 consecutive occasions, like in 3 consecutive games that they played, 5-1, 5-1, 5-1, then 2-2. The last game they played, Bayern Munich won 1-0. So this means that in the last 5 games, Arsenal have not been able to beat Bayern Munich across all competition. It will be a very long day for Arsenal if they are to win this particular. But let's move on to the lineups of these two teams. Is currently out. In the next 30 minutes, the game between these two teams will begin, and already the lineups between them are out. Let me quickly go through them. So first of all, let's look at that of Arsenal, and David Raya is in post for this particular one. At the right back, we have Julian Timber, we have Saliba, Mosquera, Lewis Kelly, Rice, Zubimendi in midfield. Eberechi Eze, Saka, Trossard, and Merino will be leading the lines for us now. Now let's move on to Bayern Munich. We have Manuel in post. We have Upamecano there. We have Jonathan Tah, Joshua Kimmich, Serge Gnabry, Harry Kane, Michael Olise, Konrad Laimer, Karl Stanisic, and Pavlovic. So to the lineup is out. It's like both teams are going out with their best players. The only changes that Mikel Arteta has done in connection with the previous game is that he's brought in Lewis Kelly, brought out Ricardo Calafiori in there. He has brought in Christian Mosquera, brought out Piero Hencapié in there. So I think that that's the only changes that Arteta has done. First of all, let's focus on the Arsenal team, then we move on to
first of all, it's surprising to me that he decided to go with Lewis Kelly. I think he's a very brilliant player. He's good at ball at his feet, but sometimes his overconfidence gets the ball stolen from him, and I think it's such a big game. I don't know why Arteta decided to take that risk. We'll listen to him maybe later on explain a few decisions. And also for me, I was thinking Hencapié, coming from where he was at Leverkusen, has played a lot of European games, more than Mosquera would have done with Valencia. So I thought maybe Hencapié should have been the one starting this game. Well, Arteta, he has been in training, monitored the players, he has other ideas, because I was thinking in terms of European pedigree. Remember, Hencapié is coming from where? Germany. He was with Bayer Leverkusen. So Bayern Munich as an opponent he's very well familiar with, and so I was thinking maybe this is a game we should start him and give him some few minutes against them to build his confidence with Arsenal. He's already a proven player from where he was with the Ecuadorian national team and also with the Bayer Leverkusen. So these are the few surprises for me. Well, Eberechi, this is his first Champions League season, right? So on the back of his hat-trick he scored in the North London derby, would like to see what he has to offer this time around in a big game against Bayern Munich, where he's facing his former Crystal Palace teammate Michael Olise as well. So interesting to see how he's able to approach this game, because I'm seeing you said Konrad Laimer is also in the midfield for them, and he's not an easy player to go past, even though physically it doesn't look like an impediment. He's got a tactical acumen to be able to stop a player like Olise, because Olise was almost like the number 10 role in the team, and Konrad Laimer was around the holding midfield, so they will be meeting very much. So it's a 1v1 I'm hoping to look forward to. So from the Arsenal perspective, honestly, it's looking to me like this is an Arsenal team that might concede a goal. That's what I see. Because when I'm looking at the Bayern team, the only change I see from the Bayern setup from their last Champions League game was that Luis Diaz was in that squad. He's picked up a red card, so he's suspended for this game. He's ended his his European games for 2025. The next time he'll be in Europe would be in 2026, and he's been replaced by Serge Gnabry, who himself missed a few games due to some knocks he experienced around his knee, and we'll need to see how he faces against his former club. Remember, he was with Arsenal for a long time, traditionally against London teams, Serge Gnabry seems to perform really well. I remember he scored a few goals against Chelsea. He scored a few goals against Tottenham as well. So we'll see how that goes. Also for Harry Kane, his familiar foes, his former North London rivals in Arsenal, the former Tottenham man would have to do justice for Tottenham, and then dare to bring some glory back to Tottenham, who conceded 4 over the weekend, by also compensating with a win for the Bavarians. So all in all, I expect an open game, even though I expect Arsenal to be quite cautious and close up shop and just try to go for set pieces goals. I expect an open game from Bayern Munich, who attempt to attack from the onset. So I expect a game where a lot of physicality will be displayed, and a lot of 1v1 duels also to look out for.
Let's move on to the bench of Arsenal, and Kepa Arrizabalaga. He's not had a lot of playing time, but he's a good competition for David Raya. Both are Spanish, and they are fighting for the spot. And Ateta always puts fire in the post, but Arrizabalaga is on the bench. We have Setford, we have Ben White, Hincapié is also on the bench. Martin Odegaard is back with the Arsenal team, but this time around he's on the bench. Gabriel Martinelli is on the bench. Christian Norgard, Noni Madueke is also back from injury. Ethan Nwaneri and Ricardo Calafiori are on the bench. Let's move on to the Bayern Munich side, and Ulrich is on the bench. Ubik is also there. Kim Min-jae, Leon Goretzka, Nicholas Jackson, Bischoff, Ito, Guerrero, Boy, and Mike are all on the bench for FC Bayern Munich. So let me have your prediction on this game. Now let's move on to other games that will be played today.
I predict a Bayern win, but a slender margin, 2-1 or 1-0.
Hey, a Bayern win? A Bayern win. So Sottie says a Bayern win. We see how it ends at the end of 90 minutes. Let's move on. Let's have a look at today's fixtures. Remember, those are not this one is not the only game that is being played. The other games that are being played. So if we can have on our screens today's fixtures for the UEFA Champions League, and let's look at how it goes. So Copenhagen are already playing in that game. I'll bring you an update on that particular one to see how these teams are faring when it comes to the UEFA Champions League. Pafos are also playing AS Monaco. They are currently losing to AS Monaco in that particular game, and Arsenal and Gunners will play Bayern Munich in that particular one. One of the big games that are being played is Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan. Is a big game that will come to. We'll preview that game very soon. Frankfurt are playing against Atlanta. Liverpool and it's not an men are in some fire. They are playing against PSV Eindhoven at Anfield. Can they at least redeem themselves against the dark side? Olympiacos are playing against Real Madrid. Can they also go on to at least end their unbeaten streak so far? Paris Saint-Germain are playing against Tottenham Hotspur. It's a repeat of the 2025 UEFA Super Cup, while Sporting CP also play Club Brugge in that particular fixture. Now let's move on. Let's do one interesting game. Let's move on to the Real Madrid game. Now Real Madrid traveled to Greece to face Olympiacos. Real Madrid in the La Liga, they drew against Rayo Vallecano. Last week they drew against Elche. Now in the UEFA Champions League, they are playing against Olympiacos. Olympiacos is not a fancy side that you would take to beat Real Madrid, but looking at the trajectory that Madrid are going on, do you think that they can redeem themselves? Especially when news incoming suggests that Xabi Alonso has lost the dressing room, about half of the dressing room, with some players and also some board members suggesting that he should be gone. Other portals are even reporting that if he fails to get the needed results against Olympiacos, he might be shown the exit door tomorrow. What do you think about this game? Is it do or die for Madrid?
First off, I think with such news of managers losing the dressing room, if you understand how this job works, usually players who are disgruntled and have media friends, they tend to usually players who have media friends, they usually tend to leak stories to the press, and then they try to make a whole meal out of it, make a mount out of a molehill. Just try to get the manager some bad press, get the manager sacked, get a new manager, and then find their form. Yeah, I remember those things used to happen at Manchester United also at a while. So it's just things with teams that are not performing really well at the moment. And I dare say it has to do with all the Brazilian players in that team. Because they are the ones, if you study the team,
like Vinicius,
they are the players who seem to be unhappy at the moment. Vinicius Junior being one, Rodrigo also be another, Hendrick being another. So at least 3 Brazilian players unhappy. So they are the ones who can throw a little bit of tantrums around, and then could get some media friends to blow it all out of proportion. But I think this is a game where it's going to be very difficult for them, because I don't think Madrid really, maybe we'll check their head-to-head and other things, but I'm not sure about Madrid's performance when they go to Greece, and so that's something that we need to also look at. And the fact that if I look at also Olympiacos' squad that they possess at the moment, they've got players who could hurt Madrid if Madrid play the way they played against Rayo Vallecano and Elche. And I'm looking at this Olympiacos team and I'm thinking that this is a team that have the potential and players who are even of better quality than the Elche and Rayo Vallecano players. So they play as a team unit and they're able to feed their attackers like Daniel Prudence, formerly of Wolverhampton Wanderers, and also Ayub Okabi, who is the second striker for the Moroccan national team. They could do Madrid some havoc and wreak more havoc on the woes of manager Xabi Alonso and then the Real Madrid team. So I think that this is another week where we could see another game where we could see another upset. I'm seeing a game where Olympiacos can beat Madrid by a goal to nil.
That's an interesting way of predicting, but before we move on to the fun fact about Real Madrid and Olympiacos game, by way of updates, that game between Copenhagen and Kairos Almaty has ended. Copenhagen won that game by 3-2. Victor Dadas, Jordan Larson, and Robert scoring in the 73rd minute. For Kairos Almaty, there's Dastan also scoring, then Baybeck also scoring. So that game ended 3-2. And the game between Pafos and AS Monaco just ended. And interestingly, just a minute ago, I was saying that Monaco were leading. But the game ended 2-2 with Pafos equalizing in the 88th minute. So that game between Pafos and AS Monaco ended 2-2. Pafos is one team that is doing so well in the Champions League this particular season. It's their first ever season in the UEFA Champions League, and they are writing a fairy tale story. Now let's move on to the Real Madrid fun facts as they play against Olympiacos. You can have it on our screen. What statistics are there for us to look out for? Now, Real Madrid will be chasing history today with the Spanish Giants looking to beat Olympiacos away from home in the Champions League for the first time. So this is a sign that Madrid has never beaten Olympiacos away from home in the Champions League. I know some Madrid fans will be surprised with the statistics. Now, the Los Blancos, the producers don't want to agree with me, but these are facts. Let me repeat it again. Real Madrid will be chasing history today with the Spanish Giants looking to beat Olympiacos away from home in the Champions League for the first time. Now, the Los Blancos are 7th in the overall Champions League table, boosting 9 points. Just say almost 9 points, but they are still boosting 9 points from their first 4 games in the league phase of the competition, while the Greek Giants are down in 31st spot on 2 points. So Olympiacos have 2 points, Madrid have 9 points. If there is another statistics about the Madrid team, we can have it on the screens, and that's it. And it says each of Real Madrid's 4 previous wins over Olympiacos have come on home soil. So the Spanish Giants will be looking to create history tonight. Now, Los Blancos have not been victorious since a 4-0 home successful win over Valencia in La Liga at the start of November. So since the start of November, Madrid has never won a game. Since then, the capital team have played 3 times in all competitions, drawing twice and losing once. Interesting times for Real Madrid, isn't it?
Yeah. So those are the numbers behind my claims of Madrid. And looking at the poor run of form, and Madrid need to make a statement tonight against Olympiacos, but also the records do not show that they get the job done when they face Olympiacos. So as I said, I still stick by my words. I see Olympiacos beating Madrid at least by a goal to nil.
All right, so Sottie is seeing Olympiacos beating Real Madrid by a goal to nil. Now let's move on to another interesting game, and it is the repeat of the 2025 Super Cup. Now in the 2025 Super Cup, we saw PSG beating Tottenham Hotspur on penalties to win the Super Cup. Mohamed Kudus played his first game for Tottenham Hotspur in that particular game. Thomas Frank also saw his first game as the manager for Tottenham Hotspur. They are meeting for the first time this season when it comes to the UEFA Champions League. Sottie, another interesting game between Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham themselves over the weekend lost 4-1 to Arsenal. PSG too have been doing well when it comes to the French league. They meet in the Champions League again. What do you think about this game? Do you think that Thomas Frank can cook some miracle to beat PSG, who are the defending champions, or you think that it will be the story will be usual, where PSG always have the hand over Tottenham Hotspur? Because this season is not going well for Tottenham Hotspur. I think they have the players. Even if you look at the attacking lineup, they have Richarlison, they have Mohamed Kudus, they have Brennan Johnson, they have Bentancur, they have a lot of good players. Even in the midfield, they have Pape Metasa. They have Paulina, who I think is one of the best DMs when it comes to currently who are playing in the English Premier League. Their defensive lineup, they have Dragusin, they have Odogi, and it seems that they are struggling. Now they are coming against a PSG side who are also doing well. Ousmane Dembele is in there. Kivako Askelia is also in there. How do you see this game going? How many goals do you see in this particular game? Who do you see winning this particular one?
With the lineup I've seen from Tottenham, it tells me that Tottenham are not in this game to win the game. I see Kudus on the bench. You spoke of Paulina. Paulina is on the bench. You spoke of Udogi is on the bench.
Wow.
So you mentioned about 3 key players who are already out on the bench. And I see players like Gray in midfield, Bergval also in midfield, and then he's going for an interesting midfield of Pape Matassa and then Rodrigo Bentancur as well. And the forwards I see is going with the 2 top of Richarlison and then Randall Kolomani. With the players I'm seeing in defense and midfield, honestly, I'm not too sure of what Spurs have to offer. Also, Kudus on the bench also. Even though
I think Spurs have gone to a 3-back. They are playing a 3-back system with Van de Ven, Christian Romero, and Gray as the defensive. Then on the wings, you have Pedro Porro and Spence at the left-hand side. Remember, Thomas Frank's first game was against PSG, right?
Yeah, and
he played a 3-back. Since then, he has never played that formation.
So maybe against
and he has gone back.
Decides to go.
He has gone back to play that formation.
But I think the difference in that game is that Kudus was in that game. We saw the energy he brought into that game, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm not already, even if they had all the players, I'm not too sure about Thomas Frank and his project at Spurs. I think after this game, they need to do an evaluation of Frank's body of work at Spurs at the moment. It appears to me that they've got very good players, talented players, a good unit, but they don't have a team, and maybe it's because of the manager. So they need to re-evaluate Thomas Frank's body of work at Spurs and maybe do the honors thing of letting him go and getting a very good manager who can get them to it. Because I'm looking at this Spurs team, like I see this team good enough to compete for the Premier League if they had set their house in order and done the right things. Spurs should have been losing some games at home and losing some games away from home. So Spurs, for me, they will lose this game, and after a few games they need to sack Thomas Frank, get a good enough coach, and then set their house in order and compete for titles.
So across all competitions, PSG and Tottenham have met in 2 games. The first game being 2017, where Tottenham beat PSG 4-2. Then the latest one was what we saw in the Super Cup, with PSG winning 6-5 on penalties. Let's look at their form guide. PSG, the last game they played against Le Havre. They beat them by 3-0. They beat Lyon by 3-2. They lost against Bayern Munich in the Champions League by 2-1. Then before that, they beat OGC Nice by 1 goal, and they drew 1-1 with Lorient. So in their last 5 games, in terms of PSG, they've won 3, drew 1, and lost 1. Now let's look at Tottenham Hotspur. Their recent game was against Arsenal in the English Premier League, where they lost 4-1 against Arsenal. They drew 2-2 with Manchester United. They beat Copenhagen by 4-0 in the Champions League. They beat Chelsea. They lost against Chelsea, then they lost against Newcastle. So in their last 5 games, Spurs have lost 3, they've drawn 1, and they've only won 1 against Copenhagen in the UEFA Champions League.
Now, I must admit the Copenhagen result was a very impressive one for me. And also the Spurs, the United game was a game they should have won. Maybe a momentary lapse of concentration killed them. So at least out of the 5 games, they should have won at least 2. And only winning 1 shows where the current trajectory they are on. And I think maybe the earlier Thomas Frank goes, the better for them. Because Frank is coming from an orientation where he has gone 7 games without a win, and he was comfortable enough. So I'm sure he has come to a big club with that same orientation, and in such class, by the 3rd game you'll be giving a verbal warning, by the 4th game a written warning, by the 5th game you're out on your way out of the club. So I think the earlier Thomas Frank gets to work, the better for him. But I don't see any way how he's going to be beating this PSG team with Chevalier and Post. They've got Zaire Emery, João Neves and Vitinha, as well as Fabian Ruiz in the midfield, and Fabian Bacola, as well as Vasquelia. This is a proper counter-attacking team, and a team that is looking to dominate the midfield and try and pummel a lot of goals behind the Spurs' defense. So honestly, I don't see any way Spurs are coming out of this game without a defeat. Okay, so that game will be officiated by Felix Zoya, and that game is being played at Parc des Princes. Let me go through the substitution bench for both teams. And for Spurs, Ben Davies is on the bench, Paulina, Kevin Danso, Austin, Mohamed Kudus, Udogi, Dan Scarlett, Xavi Simons, Kinski, Odobert, Luca Williams, Barnett, and Tyne Thompson are on the bench for Tottenham Hotspur. Now let's go to the PSG side. And Lucas is on the bench, Lucas Hernandez, Ousmane Dembele is on the bench, Safonov, Carl Inlin, Kongalo Ramos, Zabani, Belrado, Majulu, Mbaye, and Martin James are also on the bench for PSG. Remember, the show is an interactive one, so you can also send in your comments on the numbers that will be displayed on the screen. And when it's time for us to open the phone lines, you can also call in to give your prediction about who you think will be winning any of the games. Remember, we've already done a review of some of the games, Chelsea games that were played yesterday. We did that of the Newcastle, and also currently we are doing that of Arsenal, and also the big games that are coming up already, PSG and Tottenham Hotspur. Let's move on to another interesting game when it comes to the UEFA Champions League games that are being played today. Liverpool, Ancelotti, he's under fire. Lost against Nottingham Forest in the English Premier League. Now they are playing against PSV Eindhoven. Maybe remember last season, PSV Eindhoven beat Liverpool in the UEFA Champions League. As you can see on your screen, that's Luke de Jong, the striker for PSV, battling out with Federico Chiesa in last season's Champions League. Will it be a repeat? PSV beat them by 3-2 in that particular game, and let's see how that one will be going. So, Sottie, let me come to you. First of all, before we even look at this particular game into details, let's talk about Ancelotti. What's happening with him? It's quite a difficult question to find an answer to, because a few games it's just been him and his approach to the game that has exposed Liverpool. But then the other games where, in my view, Ancelotti did everything right, and the opponents were either more committed or they just played more as a team than their Liverpool opponents. So it's sometimes 50% of the blame goes to Ancelotti himself as a manager. For example, in their recent defeat against Nottingham Forest, he took the blame himself. He took the responsibility for that defeat, because it looked as if we saw a very passive Liverpool team, a team that was devoid of confidence. They looked dejected. They looked as if they didn't know what they were about. These were the players who 6 months ago they were winners of the English Premier League, had beaten almost all these teams, and now conceding very elementary mistakes, conceding from set pieces. This is almost like a reverse Uno card. Liverpool used to be a team that was scoring week in, week out from set pieces, and now we are seeing Liverpool concede from set pieces. And some of the goals they've conceded for me, very, very elementary, and it begs the question about where the mindset of some of the players are. A player like Ibrahim Konate has been a player who has come under very huge scrutiny at the moment because of how his partnership with Virgil van Dijk isn't working at the moment. Usually he's the one who goes into the tackles, and Van Dijk is the one who is the last man, but clearly it's not working, and we don't know who is going to replace any of them, and it's not looking like anything can be done about it until maybe then the general transfer window where they were going for another player. And at the point it looked like Mamadashvili was the problem, and then Mamadashvili was off against Nottingham Forest, and they still considered 3 goals. So it was good enough to send a message that the problem is not the goalkeeper, but it's just a loss of confidence. And so he's back in post tonight. Also, there was a question about whether Andy Robertson or Milos Kerkez, after so many games, Kerkez was put on the bench because it seemed as if the fire and energy he played with at Bournemouth, he's not translating that in the Liverpool shirt. And Robertson was brought in also. Liverpool are conceding as well. So Liverpool for tonight, they are going back to Milos Kerkez as well. And then their midfield, Liverpool is no longer controlling the midfield like they were doing last season. Dominic Szoboszlai isn't holding his fort like he used to. He's still firing from long range, but so far he's not been able to get one of those trademark goals, except the one he scored against Arsenal, that free kick a few months ago, I think in that September, October. So there's a lot of work Liverpool need to do. Salah has also been quiet for a long period of time. He needs to up his game on such a key moment. He needs to lead the revolution for that redemption Liverpool so badly need at this moment. Also for Cody Gakpo, this is former club he's facing. He's hit the post a few times in a lot of games. So Liverpool, as part of their problems, they've also been unlucky. And I think sometimes in life, when things go wrong, things need to further go wrong for that redemption or that comeback to be strong. I don't know if you realize sometimes in life, when things go wrong, it's only when things go wrong that things will go further wrong. Then from there, you start picking up. So I think for such a game, someone like Cody Gakpo needs to get his goal, because it seems like with Hugo Ekitike and Alexis Isak coming in, the introduction has made him almost now a French player, and he also seems to have lost confidence at the moment. So a lot of work for Ancelotti and his men. Failure to win this game puts a lot of pressure on Ancelotti, and I'm not sure he would want this pressure. He would need to win comfortably to allay the fears of fans.
Is Liverpool bigger than Alexander Isak?
I'm not sure I understand where. Usually, to understand the question is part of.
So I'm saying that is Liverpool too big of a team for Isak to play, for him to be scoring? Because since he came, he's not even giving us a quarter of what he was doing at Newcastle United. And again, at a point in time, Hugo at the beginning of the season were giving us the goals. I mean, he was giving us the goals until he did a mistake. From there on, it was Isak all along. But has Isak even scored a goal this season in the English Premier League?
In the Premier League, no. I think one of the cup games that he scored. I think the problem with Isak was that, in my mind, one, he might have even struggled at Newcastle this season because of what he did. His refusal to train and sit out training meant that you realize that the players had a certain rhythm. It was this particular summer break, I was around a few professional footballers, and I realized that you could see a player kicking the ball, walking around, running around, but the physical trainer says he's not match fit. Meanwhile, in a friendly game, he does the sprint like everybody does, but the physical trainer insists that the player isn't match fit. And so I think clearly that's the thing with him. Because he missed a lot of the friendly games, he didn't go early with the friendly game to back to Newcastle and trying to force his way out of the club. He ended up coming to Liverpool, a new club who had already done pre-season, were entering into the season, who were already at their match sharpness, and then he was entering a new environment, not match fit. That was bound to affect him, and I think that's what's happening at the moment. And I think it will take a longer period. I think let's go back to some of the players who we are praising now. For example, let's go back to this Chelsea team. When Mark Okoya came to the team, he had a very good first game. I remember, I think it was away at Everton. From there, flops. 1 year full of stinkers. He was nearly sold to Manchester United. But I think a few things happened. That day went off, and then he seemed to have resuscitated his career. He's now one of the best left backs in the country. Moses Caicedo, for example, very good player at Brighton. He came to the Premier League. His debut for Chelsea, he made an error. Chelsea ended up losing that game at West Ham by 3-1. He had a very disappointing first half of the campaign. 6 months where he was delivering absolute stinkers. But from the second half of the season, where he seemed to have now adapted to the Chelsea environment, and he was now hit to the price tag was his problem as well. You see, I don't think the price tag is the problem, and your pedigree as well. It creates a lot of, in life. I think expectation is a problem. When people have an expectation of you, it puts pressure on you. In a new environment where he's not match fit, I think it's a combination of factors that has led to where Isak is today. I think even because of the poor run of form, I think that's why a lot of pressure is on him. If Liverpool were winning games, I don't think there would have been pressure on Isak as much, because once the team is scoring, it will just raise a few eyebrows, but it wouldn't be a problem as such. I think if Liverpool ends up scoring in a few games, I mean, it will come up in a casual conversation, but not be a big deal as it is now.
Alright, so Isak is on the bench, but Hugo Ekitike will be leading the lines for Liverpool Football Club tonight, together with Cody Gakpo and Mohamed Salah. In midfield, we have Curtis Jones, Gravenberch, and also McAllister playing in a 3-man midfield. At the back, we have Dominic Soboslai playing in the right back position with Konato and Van Dijk playing the centre back position. Then at the left is Milo Skekes. Then in the goalkeeping post, we have Mamazivili also in there. For PSV and Eindhoven, Kova is in post. Anna Salah is at the left back. Jarek and Sutin, who is the captain, are playing the centre back position. At right back, we have Sergino Dest, who is playing at the right back. In the 4-man midfield, we have Ivan Perisic, Joey Verman, Moro Jr., Dennis Mann. Then up front, they are going with the 2 top strikers, Gustill, the number 20 shattered man, and Ishmael Saibari will also be leading the lines. Alejandro Hernandez will be officiating this game at Anfield. So remember, this show is also powered by Club Beer. And Club Beer, they are doing something extraordinary. They are saying that you need to chill with your guys, and if you need to chill with your guys, all you need is Club Beer, and they've been doing this since 1931. We go for a breather. When we come back, there's one last game for us to deal with, and also we'll bring you Betway on board.
You go like for the rich days. If you be rich days, I'm man, I'm buying club, okay, for that man. Hey, oh, it's on me. Hey.
Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons below 18 years, not recommended for pregnant women. This advert is FDA approved.
Introducing Betway's Bet Influencer, a groundbreaking feature where you can make money by just sharing codes. He just needs to share his codes and make money. The more his codes are used, the more money he makes. Oh yes, so what are you waiting for? Anyone can be a bet influencer. Share your codes and make money. Bet Influencer, another world first from Betway.
This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Betway, get way more.
Welcome back from the breeder. You're still watching Sports World on ABC News GH, and we are previewing the games that will be played in the UEFA Champions League. There's one more game to be previewed. That is Atletico Madrid versus Inter Milan. This is a big game between these two sides, and we are doing a preview. Let's have the fun facts about these two teams, especially when you talk about the UEFA Champions League. Let's have the fun fact about Inter Milan or Atletico Madrid on our screens. And let me come to Eugene Ofori, Sottie. But before I come to Sottie, Atletico Madrid have won 11 of their last 12 UEFA Champions League home games. They've lost only one, with no team picking up more home wins in the competition since the 2023-2024 campaign. They have scored 3+ goals in their 2 home matches this season: 5-1 versus Frankfurt, 3-1 versus Union Saint-Gilloise, never doing so in 3 straight. So when it comes to home games in the UEFA Champions League, Atletico are the team. Inter Milan are one of 3 teams with a perfect 4 wins from 4 record in the UEFA Champions League this season, alongside Bayern Munich and Arsenal. Inter have never won their opening 5 matches of a campaign in this competition, while the only Italian sides to do so are Milan in 1992-1993, Juventus in 2004 and 2005, and Napoli in the 2022-2023 season. So, big game, Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan.
Yeah, this is a game which was worthy enough for a Champions League final, even a semi-final. And so I expect to, I think with this new approach, I expect to see an Atletico Madrid team who open up and play against Inter Milan. Inter Milan are coming to this game on the back of a defeat against their bitter rivals AC Milan, where Jan Sommer was heavily criticized for his role in the goal Christian Pulisic scored. So Inter will need to show up big here. And from the statistics we've seen, Atletico have scored 3+ goals in their last 2 games at home. But the stat says they've never done it on their they've never done it 3 straight games. I think that's a good start that Inter can stand on and try and go for an away victory there. And it's quite possible. Looking at these games, it's a game where it's very much open, and where if one team seizes their chance, they can do very well. And I'm looking at Lautaro Martinez as a player who is a possible player of interest for this Inter Milan team at the moment.
All right, so the games have begun across all the centers in Europe. Arsenal, Bayern, Atletico Madrid, Inter, Frankfurt, Atlanta, Liverpool, PSV, Olympiacos, Madrid, PSG, and Tottenham Hotspur, Sporting Lisbon, and Club Brugge. 4 minutes or 5 minutes of the games have been played so far in the UEFA Champions League. We have received a message, and I'd like Sottie to read it for us.
So he says, "Hello, good evening. My name is Abeku." So shout out to you, Abeku. Good evening as well. He says, "Speaking of Liverpool, I think it's about the manager. Whenever new players come into a team, it often takes time for them to cope, and it takes a very, very good coach to make them cope with each other. Man City last season, for instance, they performed very poorly, but they started picking up at the end of the season and the beginning of this season, and they are doing quite well." Very interesting points from him with regard to the Liverpool situation at the moment. But thank you very much, Abeku, for your thoughts on the show. It shows very much clearly that you are following the show and you are concerned about our thoughts on the show. Thank you, Abeku.
You can keep on sending your messages to the numbers that have been displayed on your screen. But before you even open the phone lines to even share your view, let's have a look at Betway Oddboard, and we have some weekend games for you. Remember, Betway Oddboard is brought to you by Betway Ghana. All they are saying is that you need to share your codes with your friends, fans, and followers. It doesn't matter whether they win or lose, you earn 4% of their wages. So these are the games. You have Pisa versus Inter Milan. That option has been covered. Manchester City will be playing against Leeds United. Can Manchester City come back? We think that they can. So we have predicted that they are going to win. Atletico Madrid will play against Real Oviedo. Atletico Madrid will win. Barcelona and Deportivo Alaves, we are seeing Barcelona will win that game. FC Porto and Estoril Praia has been covered. Then we have OFK Belgrade versus Zvezda Belgrade. We are seeing that Zvezda Belgrade will win that game. Then FK Partizan Belgrade also play against FK Javor Ivanjica. That option has been covered. So the Betway booking code is BW240C2C3C. Let's take it again. BW240C2C3C. So that's your Betway odds board for the weekend. Remember, on Friday we'll bring you the build up, and we'll build up to the weekend. So remember, Friday evenings live on ABC News Ghana, we will be previewing all the weekend games from the Ghana Premier League to the English Premier League to the Spanish La Liga, and also across all Europe. So let's open the phone lines for just a few minutes. Let's display the phone lines on our screens. You can call in to share your comments, your thoughts, your prediction. Who do you think is winning the game between Arsenal, Bayern, and also Inter, Atletico Madrid, or all the other games that are being played? Do you think that Liverpool can go on to beat PSV? Can Real Madrid redeem themselves against Olympiacos? You can call in and also share your comments as we wrap up the show. Sottie, do you have any final words? It seems that the games that are being played is still 0-0 across board. It's early days yet. Almost 80 minutes played so far in all of the games. And by way of updates, PSV Eindhoven are up by a goal against Liverpool. Ivan Perisic, the good old Ivan Perisic, has scored against Liverpool.
Well, he has scored from a penalty at the moment. And I'm seeing a message here. It says, LFC absolutely hopeless so far. We've only played 7 minutes, but there's little sign of improvement from the weekend. Yeah, it says the lack of confidence among the players is astonishing. So the lack of confidence I spoke about is a
I think Slot will be sacked this weekend. By Sunday he'll be gone.
Another message says, can we Liverpool just not concede first? Feels like every single game. That's 24 times now since the start of last season. For context, Arsenal have done it just 8 times in the same time frame. And another one says, extraordinary this. I mean, what is Van Dijk arguing? So it means they are surprised Van Dijk is arguing against this penalty. Also, it turns out there's a big update from another side of the world, near Africa, somewhere far away in Greece, where we are hearing some unpalatable news.
Olympiacos and Madrid. Yes, so Olympiacos are up by a goal.
No, I think I'm a prophet.
Yeah, a prophet.
I'm a prophet. I said that Olympiacos will score one goal, and my cousin man who's a Madrid fan refused to accept that fact.
Olympiacos are up by a goal against Real Madrid.
So shout outs to our general manager, Mr. George Opoku.
Don't you want our salary?
Shout outs to Mr. George Opoku.
You don't want our salary to come.
Yesterday I greeted other people and I have not had any problems.
We don't want our salary to come this one. So I beg, or you don't want us to be doing our show, especially when our cameraman is a Madrid fan, and you don't want us to go on air, especially when our director is a Madrid fan. So by way of updates, Madrid are down by a goal with just 9 minutes being played. Chukwulo scored in the 8th minute against Real Madrid, and in that game that is being played between Sporting Lisbon and Club Brugge, already there's a red card in that particular game. So with less than 10 minutes being played, a lot of actions. And Atletico Madrid are also up by a goal against Inter Milan.
Interesting. Just when things look like they are not going to happen, all of a sudden things are happening. So once again, Inter have considered a goal in their last 2 games.
I think that goal has been overruled.
Okay.
That goal has been overruled. So it's still 0-0.
Okay, Atletico scores, but it's a handball.
Yeah, it's still 0-0.
It seems to have been a great combination from Barella, Boni, and then Lautaro. But well, that was saved by Musso, and then later on, Atletico then scored, which now we are hearing is being chopped off for.
So let's see if we can have some calls from our viewers. Let them share their prediction. Let them share their opinions, what they think about the games that are being played so far. Already Madrid are down by a goal. Already Olympiacos has scored. PSV has also scored against Liverpool Football Club. If you can display call numbers on the screen, let's have the thoughts of our viewers in there. So by the way of updates, Arsenal, Bayern Munich is still 0-0. Atletico Madrid and Inter is still 0-0. Frankfurt and Atlanta is still 0-0. Let me see whether Kamaldeen Sulemana is playing in that particular game against Frankfurt. No, he's not in that team. He is on the bench. Kamaldeen Suleiman, yes, he's on the bench. Ademola Lookman is in there. Jean-Lucas Kamaka is also leading the lines for Atlanta. PSV are leading Liverpool by a goal to 0 at Anfield, whilst Olympiacos have also scored. That game between PSG and Tottenham is still 0-0. Sporting and also Club Brugge are also 0-0. If you are not receiving any calls, and so that's how we wrap up the show. This is Sports World with me, James Ohenba McKeown, ABC News Ghana. This was a special edition of the UEFA Champions League. We did a review of the games that were played yesterday. We look at what the teams did right and what they did wrong, and also we did a proper preview of the games that are currently ongoing in the UEFA Champions League. I didn't do this alone. I did this with Eugene, Ofori. So remember, the show is powered by Betway Ghana and also Club Beer. So that's how we end Sports World. Remember, on Friday we'll bring you the build-up. We'll be building up to the weekend. To see how the teams will fare when it comes to the weekend. I think there's been a goal. The way the director is screaming into my ears, that means there's been a goal in Greece. Madrid, it says that Madrid have equalized, but I'm not receiving any updates, so I don't know whether it's a prank or anything. It's a prank. So Olympiacos are still leading by a goal to 0. So that's what happens when you are working with Madrid fans. That's how we end the show on Sports World. Have a good night and enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye bye.